Special delivery.
Hey, thank you. I bought 2 brand new MacBook Neos. It's the first time I've ever bought a brand new anything from Apple because I'm not a big fan of Apple. I'm not a fan of their business practices, of their anti-right to repair policies, but I am a fan of budget things that don't actually suck. And from what I've seen, this might not actually suck. Today, I am going to tear it down. I am not gonna do benchmarks and all this stuff. I'm just gonna review them from a physical standpoint, from a repair shop standpoint. And I bought 2 of them because they're 2 different models. 512GB model, 256GB model. 512GB model, 256GB model, 2 different colors. Let's get into it. No sponsors, this is just straight tear down, straight repair. So we're gonna start with the 512GB version. This is a $700 laptop. This is not the $600 model. I'm not gonna say $599 and $699 because I hate that. Let's call it what it is. It's 700 bucks. You can get a $100 student discount. I'm not gonna show you the unboxing process. It looks like we have the same exact screws as the other MacBooks, so let's get right into it. All right, the front screws, they are different. So the 2 corner screws are different from the middle screws, and the back 2 screws are different from the 2 back middle screws. But it looks like the panel just pops straight off. So there's no crazy having to pull it and like twist it in a certain angle, if you guys remember on all the other MacBooks. This is where it gets interesting. So I think these are the speakers. This is the battery. What do we got here? This is the Wi-Fi antenna. We got the logic board under here, which is insane. Look how small this logic board is. So it does use the A18 Pro CPU, which is the same CPU, or I should say SoC, as the iPhone 16 Pro. Insane. Friggin'
Phone processor.
A phone processor in a laptop, yeah. In a MacBook nonetheless. This is something that is just crazy. It's something that I think should be rewarded, which is why I'm doing this teardown, which is why I actually bought these brand new, because if this is executed properly, if this is repairable, then I think it's a good step in the right direction for Apple to I'm dying. To target that budget consumer, because that's kind of where this is. This is like a premium Chromebook. As long as this exists, there's no reason for a Chromebook to exist. So first thing I want to do is just undo the battery, which looks like there's 2 T3 screws right here. All right, it's pretty straightforward battery connector. Now, how does the battery come out? It looks like the battery is the battery glued to this bracket? I think it's glued to this bracket right here. But it looks like the bracket's removable, which means you don't actually need to use glue to remove the battery. Let's see if that's true. In order to get this bracket out, I need to unplug the wires that are wired on top of it. As you can see, the cable for the speaker and the headphone jack, they run through the bracket and then they plug into the motherboard, the logic board here. And this speaker, long wire, plugs into the logic board there. So we're gonna unplug those. And then this takes us a T5 Torx bit. We have these little soft rubber foamy bits right here. We have 4 of them, 2 on this side and then 2 on this side. I'm curious what those actually are, because do they just provide extra reinforcement for the middle right here? Because this panel is pretty flimsy. You know, it's definitely, you can feel the difference between this panel and the other MacBook panels. Does it just provide some, you know, extra sturdiness? It's an interesting little thing.
Is there any engineers in the comments? Comment below.
Yeah, any Apple engineers watching this video, please betray your NDA and let me know. Risk prison time. So we have 18 screws. They're all the same size. They all have thread locker on them. Now let's see if the battery comes out.
Wow.
Wow. I am shocked right now because they've never had a battery this easy to replace since the non-Retina MacBook Air, which is absolutely insane. So props to that. It looks like it is glued to this bracket right here, the frame. I am curious how much they're gonna charge for this, because that's where I don't give them any credit. The part prices are atrocious on Apple's store. They're disgusting. So I'm sure they're gonna charge like 200 bucks for this thing or something just stupid. I hope that's not the case. I mean, I'm being proven wrong now. However, just knowing Apple, even though it's a budget laptop, this battery is going to cost more than 50% of this entire device.
Well, just buy another one of those Neos.
Exactly, yeah. So let's hope that's not the case, but wow. I'm seriously impressed by that. Fantastic start. Next up, I guess we can just start with the speakers. Looks like they come right out, 4 screws. I think it's the same T5. Nice. All right, same T5 screwdriver and the 4 screws on the speaker. And I did notice this has a slotted cable bracket that you push down. It's a clip, I don't know what you want to call it, versus the flat cable that the MacBooks use nowadays. You know, like this type of flat cable. So the speakers on the other MacBooks use this flat cable, and I only know that because I've tried to modify some phones and stuff in the past to use the MacBook speaker, and I've only been able to do it with the older MacBook speakers. But this one's looking good. I'm guessing it's this big because of two things: chassis, flex, and bass, I'm guessing, just to make it a little more bassier. All these screws are the same size, which is nice. Other speaker, same thing. Headphone jack, 2 screws. This baby comes right out. Very easy. Looks like the magnet, these are the magnets for the sleep sensor. The trackpad, it looks like the cable goes underneath the logic board. It loops around to there. This does look like it's glued in, just by prodding it a little, looks like it's glued in. But the trackpad here is mechanical. There's no more haptic trackpad on this thing, which is, in my opinion, an upgrade. I really never liked the haptic trackpads. I always thought the old school physical trackpad of like the 2012 MacBook Pro was peak Apple trackpad. It's my opinion. I like the smaller trackpad that actually physically clicks. You can adjust it. Granted, it did wear down over time. All right, let's start off with the logic board. So we have the connector for the USB-Cs. Now, Apple was the first one that I'm aware of that started using modular USB-C ports. So they always got my respect for that. I made a previous video on why they deserve credit for that. It's one of the very few things they deserve credit on, but it looks like they use the same thing here. However, one of these ports is only USB 2, I believe, and the other one is USB 3. Neither of them are Thunderbolt. I mean, come on, broski. Like, just, whatever. However, it looks like they're both modular. Are they sold as a set? It looks like they're on the same cable. Okay, so I guess you have to buy them together. I'd rather buy them separate. Okay, so it keeps switching back between the T3 and the T6 here.
She-Hulk.
She-Hulk, yes. And there's the modular USB-C. Shout out to Apple for having a modular USB-C. It looks like companies are just starting to adopt this, but Apple, they were the first ones to do it. I think I would prefer maybe if these two were separate cables, but it obviously costs less to just put them together and slap them on in there. Next up is the Wi-Fi antenna. It looks like we're gonna go back to a T3 screwdriver. Tiny ass screws, jeez. Wow, those screws are very tiny. Good thing I have tiny raccoon-like fingers. We're going back to a T5 for this. So the Wi-Fi antenna, with it 4 screws, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 screws and comes right out. That's the Wi-Fi.
Wow.
Yeah. Looks like we have the 2 microphones here and microphone cable here. This is, I think, the keyboard cable right here. Again, the trackpad cable's right there. Display cable right here. What is, ooh, is this the Touch ID? It's the Touch ID's cable's cable. That's a very weird design choice. Yeah, odd, okay. I'm just gonna disconnect the mic right here. There we go, so there's the microphone. And we are just gonna disconnect the trackpad cable as well while we're here. Just a little pull, trackpad cable comes right out. This, I think, is the webcam? I'm not sure what this cable is. Don't quote me on this one. I'm here to take things apart, not to explain things. And this is the display cable, I know that for sure, because this one's a thick boy. Display cable out. I think it's time to take the display off before we attack that trackpad. 4 screws. The hinges are pretty tiny. I wonder how those are gonna hold up to the wrath of children. Generally, Apple has the best hinges in the entire industry. Those are torqued down pretty tight. And we do have thread locker on them. Maybe the thread locker will do its job. 4 screws, and this guy comes right out. Now, an interesting thing I found is that there's no writing right here. Usually Apple will brand this with like MacBook Pro, MacBook Air, and white letters right here, and they didn't on this one, so that's kind of curious. It reminds me of like the 2015 Retina MacBook Pros where they didn't put anything here. I am curious though if this panel is replaceable by itself, and I'm guessing the answer is no, because it just looks very, very well sealed, and Apple has never had a replaceable panel on their MacBook Pros. You've always had to buy the entire display or just deal with the BS that's involved. What happened to your shirt? Now this is interesting. This is like a dual hinge right here on both sides. It's like 2 hinges that kind of collide into one. I wonder why Apple decided to do that. Now the time we've all been waiting for. Let's take this logic board out. This tiny little blown up iPhone 16 Pro logic board. This is turning out to be incredibly repairable. 1, 2, 3, 5 logic board screws. And Oh, the keyboard. Dumbass.
The greatest technician that's ever lived.
And that's the keyboard cable. So this is the logic board. Incredible how tiny this thing is, man. I hear that often from my wife, and I'm guessing that's where the actual SoC is. The actual A18 Pro processor is right here. We're gonna do the touchpad, the trackpad now. So this is the cable for the trackpad. It is adhered, but dude, I'm barely pulling right now.
Wow.
Crumbs are going to destroy that adhesive in no time with a child. We know that for sure. Only 4 screwdriver bits we've had to use this entire time, which is very unlike Apple. I'm just kidding, actually, it's only Apple. Usually it's 1. Shout out to Lenovo. 2 screws on this guy, 2 screws on this guy. This is an interesting mechanical trackpad design. I've never seen this type of design anywhere. Well, that was hilarious timing. This takes a T6 screwdriver, so you actually do have to have another screwdriver. This middle screw is the adjuster screw. You can probably tighten that screw to make it so you require less travel to click, but generally speaking, it doesn't take kindly to being adjusted. Just thinking back to the 2012 days. But something that we should definitely mess around with. Interesting little design here though. Now this is the trackpad frame. Dude, this is heavy. Obviously, I think they need this to be sturdy because this thing is gonna take the most pressure. This and the keyboard, I would assume. But this got some weight to it. You see right here, so this screw, you can adjust that screw and it presses on this nipple.
Oh yeah.
Just like that, and it makes a little click. So same design that they've had for forever. So this pops right out. Look at that, and now we have a trackpad. Now I am curious because the keyboard, everything on this thing is modular. I really wonder if this keyboard is modular, but I don't have any faith in that one, to be honest. I have to be very careful with this one because if I rip the Touch ID, then there goes the Touch ID. I managed to get underneath. I did manage to get the Touch ID cable off. It was just really strong adhesive. I'm peeling off this. This keyboard is replaceable. Very tiny Torx screws to get to the keyboard. This is kind of a pain in the ass. The rest of the repairs were like pretty straightforward. The keyboard remains difficult to get to. Also, I'm tearing this off, which I don't like doing. Apple's probably thinking if you're replacing the keyboard, this is gonna be ripped anyways. You're gonna get a new one with a new keyboard, but still, it kind of sucks having to do this. And the adhesive on the keyboard too is pretty tough. So these are strips of adhesive. I just want to see if it's just the frame around the keyboard that you have to take off or if there's screws in the middle of the frame. Yeah, so the whole keyboard has these then. I don't know how many screws. I'm not going to continue to do this, but the entire keyboard, it has screws every few keys or so.
Touch ID is removable and you can pair it to a new board using the Repair Assistant, so that's a huge win.
I'm not exactly happy with the way they did the keyboard. It's still a lot of labor to replace that keyboard. However, credit where it's due, the keyboard is replaceable without replacing the top case. Props to them on that. Devastating news, people. The Touch ID connector doesn't even exist on the cheaper model.
Wow.
Yeah, you peasants don't even get the connector. You thought you were gonna convert your power button to a touch ID?
Peasants.
Peasants! Everything else looks identical to the cheap model. This is the most repairable MacBook ever made, which is absolutely insane that in the year 2026, when everything's being enshittified, we have something that went the opposite way. This is my message to Apple. If Apple's watching this, I'm sure they're not, but if Apple's watching this, premium doesn't have to be non-repairable. This is budget and it's repairable, right? You made it very easy to repair because it's gonna be deployed in mass to educational organizations and all that stuff. Please apply this design philosophy, this repairable design philosophy to your premium models of MacBooks and your Mac Studios and stuff. If this repairability was with your premium devices as well as your budget devices, then the argument can be made to pay that premium if you're an organization for something that will last and is upgradable. Like the new ThinkPad T14, you can replace everything on it. Everything's modular. 10 out of 10 repair score. I don't think it'll ever happen, but credit where it's due. This is awesome. I think this laptop is gonna dominate. The Chromebooks, every other laptop manufacturer is shitting their pants right now because of this. And if they're not, they should be. Because once people get into that Mac ecosystem, it's over, dude. It's over. You never leave it. Unfortunately, I am the example of that, where I entered the Apple ecosystem and I'm never going back because now all my family, all my friends have, they're a part of it. Find My, iMessage, FaceTime, AirPlay, AirDrop.
Speed dial.
There is no viable Android alternative to this ecosystem. And it is what it is. So now, yeah, that's my message to other companies. You guys need to be building laptops like this. Stop with the plastic fuckery. Stop with the plastic bullshit. HP, I'm looking at you. Mr. and Mrs. Hinge problems. Apple can do this. You see this? These are metal mounts on a unibody frame. How hard is that to make? Just do it. That's all you have to friggin' do, man. Take some lessons from this design. Apple managed to make a $600 MacBook without sacrificing the one thing that makes these super reliable, and that is the hinge design. Please just start adopting that. I'm talking about Asus, Acer, HP, Lenovo. Lenovo ThinkPads are very good with this. Their IdeaPads are not. Dell Inspirons, not. Dell Latitudes, they're better, but still not to this point. Nobody is at the point, maybe except for Microsoft. The Surface Pro does have pretty decent hinges, but nobody's at the level that Apple is in terms of their hinge quality. And I think that's something a lot of you guys can take as a lesson.
For repairability, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. Storage and RAM is soldered, so we'll continue to see companies drilling holes into the board to destroy the data, therefore turning it into e-waste. And the display panel is still fused to the assembly, which increases cost of replacement. But from a repair standpoint, at this price range, it's still better than every single Chromebook and brand new Windows laptop. Emphasis on the brand new, because a used ThinkPad will give this a run for its money.
But I'm gonna reassemble this, and that's my final thoughts. In my next video, I am gonna benchmark this thing with some twists. So stay tuned for that one. Thank you for watching. So long. Lupe, why is your shirt off again, dude?